In this tutorial we're going to break down the basics of soldering. We will begin by explaining the necessary precautions each of us have to take before soldering. Then we will show you the steps on how to prepare the gear needed to solder. And lastly, we will explain how to go through the actual process of soldering in a printed circuit board.
First and foremost, it is strictly necessary to wear personal protective equipment. For this practice, you need protective clothing for skin protection and to prevent burns from splashes or hot solder. In this case, we will be wearing an apron. You will also need isolated safety shoes to avoid an electric discharge through your body, and safety goggles to impede the harming of your eyes with hot solder.
Next, we need to gather the materials required for soldering. Here we have the solder spool, followed by the flux, the rosin, which in this case we will not be using, the soldering iron in the station, and finally the printed circuit board with the components. We have to connect the soldering station to the electrical network and then turn it on. The temperature must be set at around 380 degrees Celsius so that the solder melts.
We also have to clean the tip of the soldering iron. For this operation, we use a sponge that comes with the soldering station. It has to be wet but not completely soggy. Otherwise, the soldering iron tip would cool down and the solder won't melt. We have to make sure that the tip is shiny. This will help the heat transmission between the components. Another good practice is to spray flux on the surface of the printed circuit board so that the solder keeps melting more time, making it easier to operate.
Once the soldering iron has reached its temperature, it is time to solder the components. In order to do this, we take the tool with one hand and the solder with the other. The surface of the printed circuit board needs to be clean so that the solder sticks to it when it melts. We place the tip of the soldering iron in the pin of the component that needs to be soldered. After waiting 2 or 3 seconds, we put the solder in contact with the hot pin. While the solder melts, we have to draw a mountain with the soldering iron. This will result in a much stronger bond. Having passed a couple of seconds, the soldering will have cooled and therefore be ready. It is worth noting that the first soldered component may not be the best looking, and only after a couple of tries will the solder joint deliver the best results. This is why it can be helpful to make use of a testing panel before soldering on the actual board.